Hey guys, tonight we embark on a whimsical journey through a period of history that was equal parts chaotic, tragic, and let's face it, inconvenient. Picture this: the Crusades, a time when knights and nobles set across lands far and wide, fueled by zeal and a thirst for adventure. You might be flanked by warriors covered head to toe in chainmail, pondering if those authentic looking sandals will withstand the journey, or whether you should have just opted for a sturdy pair of boots. And in case that medieval skincare tip about bathing once in a blue moon makes you uneasy, don't fret. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Oh, and I'd love to know, where are you watching from? Comments go below with your location and local time. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As your eyes flutter closed, you find yourself standing on dusty, uneven roads beneath a pastel evening sky, where narrow alleyways wind through bustling medieval towns. Your journey begins with the distant clamor of a market filled with merchants brandishing colorful fabrics, their wagons brimming with spices from lands that seem unimaginably far away. The air is alive with the scent of adventure, or perhaps it's simply the myriad of fragrances from grilled meats, mixed with the musk of frankly too many people who haven't bathed since, well, a long while ago. Life in this age is harsh and unpredictable. The Pope has called for a crusade, urging Christians to unite under the banner of faith and take back the Holy Land. You're not entirely sure why, but there's talk of sins and indulgences that if you join this noble cause, your slate of wrongs might be wiped clean. Pretty tempting, right? Plus, there's always that rumor of the golden city of Jerusalem awaiting those brave enough to make it there. This is history in the making, and you're in the thick of it. Just like that band of hodgepodge warriors gathering at the city gates, turning restlessly towards the horizon. Historians still debate whether everyone was driven by piety, or if some were merely opportunistic, hoping for land and titles won through victory. Surprisingly, among these rugged fighters, there are common peasants, farmers trading pitchforks for swords. No mail armor or noble pedigrees for them, just the promise of something grander. A colorful tapestry of humanity, moved by differing reasons, yet unified by a singular cause, casting aside their simple lives for the precarious path ahead. While this unity is stirring, stay alert. The journey is treacherous. Mystery and folklore seep through the cobblestone streets like fog, whispering of relics, with mystical powers that warriors hope to find, often providing little more than tales to tell later, around campfires. The most surprising detail, perhaps, is the world you're entering is far more connected than you expected. There are scholars here who speak of distant lands you thought were mere legend places where the sun sets on mountains. And great libraries house scrolls filled with knowledge you can scarcely imagine. In this historical crossroads, cultures mesh and sometimes clash, but they share stories enriching this grand weave of history with each telling. You march beyond the familiar past rows of tethered horses and the ominous clatter of weapons being prepared. There's camaraderie to be found in shared discomfort, another soul lost in this sea of clashing armor and creaky wagons. As the moon rises over the encampment outside town, You're reminded that this is just the beginning. Each step you take brings you closer to lands untold, with conquest and discovery waiting over each new hill. Ideals driving every crusader forth, echoing the call to arms beneath a vast and starlit sky. Gerald chuckles as he slaps you on the back, the sticky sweetness of ale filling the air, woven into the hearty laughter echoing through the tavern. You tip your mug and take another sip, savoring that earthy, familiar taste. It's been another long day in the fields, and the tavern's warmth is a welcome respite from the monotony outside. Spinning around in your wooden chair, you hope to blot out the endless stretch of green that has been the backdrop to your life for as long as you can remember. You've heard whispers here and there about knights and battles from distant lands, but those stories seem as exotic as dreams, until tonight. Among the clamor, a fellow at the bar mentions something that catches your ear. The Pope, they say, is calling for a crusade. Land and riches could be yours if you're willing to fight. More enticing to you, though, is the promise of forgiveness, a cleansing of a soul wearied by the routine of rural toil. The allure of such a chance is hard to shake, unlike the stubborn dirt under your fingernails from a lifetime of farming. Historians still debate whether the Pope's promises were meant to entice with pure motives or fill the crusader ranks. But at this moment, those debates are far from your mind. The idea of adventure, of breaking free from the familiarity that feels more like a cage, now compels you. And with each sip of ale, your resolve grows fueled by Gerald's enthusiastic tales of glory and God's favor. His wide smile and gesticulating hands paint those tales with a vividness that's hard to resist. You and Gerald, wearing your intoxicated resolve like armor, decide then and there to abandon your plows for sword's promise. Gerald, not exactly the picture of a soldier with his gut, and an ever-present floppy hat brings a levity you find calming amidst the looming reality of what you've decided to commit to. It's during these moments of reflection that the night air, cool and crisp, nips at your resolve as you step out of the tavern. It's a reminder that the world you know waits at home, a place that suddenly feels smaller and less significant than it did this morning. The decision is impulsive, but made with the conviction that only the heat of ale and camaraderie can inspire. You head home, the moon casting a gentle glow over the fields, half expecting to wake tomorrow to find this all a dream. But the path is set with small, deliberate footsteps. Tomorrow you'll pack what little of value life as a farmer has left unburdened. Behind you, Gerald's laughter echoes a constant reminder of the absurdity that surrounds two unlikely crusaders. As you lie in your modest bed, the first whispers of sleep beginning to take you, you dwell on tales you've heard by firesides. Crusaders, they say, march under banners of red crosses, drawing lines between faith and kingdom that blur with distance. Those banners in your mind become beacons, leading you from the monotony of known paths. You wonder how true those tales are, how much is myth spun to fit the years of those left behind. Still, you feel a strange comfort in knowing that just like you, many are stepping onto this path unsure and hopeful. A farmer's life is not one usually filled with pomp and grandeur. Fields don't care for grand tales. Yet here you are, a drink or several deep in a promise of adventure. As sleep finally tips you over its boundary, the rhythmic croak of frogs lulls you, gently offering a calmness to your racing thoughts. Tomorrow the sun will rise, as it always does. The fields will stretch out in their quiet defiance against heaven and horizon, just as they always have. But for you and Gerald, if he remembers what he's pledged tomorrow, marks something entirely new, a path of both known and unknown, cradling a farmer's hope of redemption and excitement between its unfamiliar contours. While the moon casts its gentle glow over the landscape, your heart dances with excitement and trepidation. Here you are standing among the so-called Crusaders, each of you adorned in mismatched pieces of rusty armor and flimsy helmets that seem more likely to clatter off your heads than to protect them. The armor smells faintly of the past of battles, long fought yet. The rust reminds you that this might be its final outing. Your shoes, mere thin pieces of leather, do little to shield your feet from the roughness of the earth beneath you. Each step is a reminder of the simplicity of this life, a bit like wearing a piece of history that's as stubborn as it is soft. Your fellow Crusaders shuffle beside you, their keeping pace as much an art as it is a precaution to avoid the occasional sharp stone on the path. In your hands rests a weapon, or rather a makeshift concoction of metal that once had a more domestic life. It's amusing, really, how a kitchen knife can transform into a sword of justice for this holy quest. Nearby, a spatula, or perhaps an old frying pan, serves as a makeshift shield, the sheen of the pan fading, but its sturdiness reassuring. Turning your attention to Gerald, your newest companion in this comedic parade, you can't help but smile. He strides towards you with what can only be described as a masterpiece of improvisation. A wooden board, once part of a garden fence, is now his shield. He's taken the time to draw upon it a crude sun with a face that wears an expression somewhere between consternation and cheer. This is Gerald's self-declared emblem, suggesting perhaps that even sunlight can bear witness to acts of bravery or folly. Gerald's appearance is heartening. His creativity bridges a gap that the Crusaders' ragtag equipment leaves wide open. You see the humor in it all, standing here with a gathering of misfits, dressed for war, as if you've all stumbled out of the pages of some lively tapestry. Around you, youthful giggles intermingle with the sound of clinking metal, painting a picture of camaraderie born from shared absurdity. Historians still debate whether events like these, more humorous than heroic, had any real bearing on the outcome of the greater war, or if they merely served as a distraction, a footnote of folly in history's grand tome. But you're aware, standing here, that these moments hold an intrinsic value, that bonds formed in jest might outlast many forged in serious pursuit. A surprising element in this gathering is the presence of Viles, the donkey. His role is unclear beast of burden or unwitting mascot, yet his patience is admirable. He regards the group with solemn eyes, as though he carries the weight of wisdom earned from countless journeys. Viles is an odd confidant, yet he walks with purpose, often nudging any straggler back in line, ensuring no one breaks rank in this procession of sorts. Meanwhile, you can't shake the feeling of stepping into a performance where the script is both too familiar and entirely a mystery. It's as though the stage of history is set for a play, one that showcases the folly and sincerity of humanity's continual quest for purpose. As you march, echoes of tales from bygone eras resonate in your ears, the songs of the past, each note a reminder of the cyclical nature of human pursuit. Do they even know where they're headed, one might wonder. But in such stories, the destination is often secondary to the journey and the tales woven along the way. You pause for a moment to adjust a particularly loose plate of armor, watching as the group rallies around a shared purpose, even if it sometimes feels no weightier than the steel they bear. After all, they embrace the narrative, believing in the cause, right or wrong, armed with household relics. With each step, you find yourself increasingly reflective. It's a reminder that bravery can often take unexpected forms, a truth that will doubtless become as much a part of this night as the moonlit path that guides you forward. The wailing wind clawed at your cloak as you trudged forward, each step on the frost-bitten road, echoing the relentless march across Europe. The army's ceaseless tremor resonated through the air, an orchestra of clattering armor, distant murmurs, and the occasional shout cutting through the din. Nature herself seemed to challenge you with gray skies, woven tightly together, refusing even the meager warmth of sunlight. Your boots squelched into the soft mud beneath, feeling as though they could dissolve with each staggering step. The roads were unforgiving, a mixture of ice and slush that turned the way into a treacherous mire. With every lurch forward, a fresh reminder of the physical toll. Your feet were blistered and raw, a throbbing testament to the unforgiving journey. The armor, a once gallant shield, now weighed like a second skin of lead, each movement dragging you into a choreography of discomfort. As you continued on, your senses were assaulted not only by your pain, but by the disarray of the marching throng. It was more a gathering of chaos than order. Soldiers intermingled with a procession of carts and goats, the odd spectacle of an old man determinedly dragging along a piano, somehow fitting into this cacophony. Historians still debate whether it was an act of sheer lunacy or an unfathomable dedication to art. Life along the march offered little comfort. Water was precious, often tainted with murk, and mud beyond drinkability. Each gulp felt like an act of bravery, daring the body to accept what might not be fit for consumption. The heat from your breath mingled with the chill air, creating ghostly plumes that danced away as you exhaled, just another fleeting presence in the endless trudging crowd. Among this melee of humanity, Gerald continued to distinguish himself with his remarkable imprudence. Once you caught sight of him attempting to scale a rickety cart, a makeshift stage for some unheard serenade, perhaps. The cart tipped Gerald with it, as though illustrating the very concept of foolhardiness. Yet somehow even his antics were a momentary diversion, the humor undercut by the persistent reality of the march. Yet not all was adversity. Each hardship carried its own strange beauty. The frost, when it caught in the sparse edges of leaves, seemed diamond-like in its clarity. pale and luminous against the dreary palette of your surroundings. The noise, though overwhelming, connected you with centuries of marching feet. Roman legions had once trod similar paths, through echoing ravines and across the same rivers now bordered by your own relentless steps. And surprisingly, there were moments of unexpected magnificence. The clatter of hooves and boots gave way, occasionally, to the eerie sound of an owl, undeterred by the tumult beneath. A fleeting wonder, perhaps, but it paused the energies of those in the march, a momentary balm against the tedium. You smiled wryly to yourself, reminded of a saying from long before the mapped trails of this campaign, a careless nod towards something enduring and arch, like the owl itself. The debate amongst historians is not merely a colorful aside, but an invitation to consider this experience through their multifaceted lens. While some argue over why armies compose themselves in such varying manners, the journey brought you firsthand into understanding there may be no singular reason. Just as the pianist determinedly pulled his burden along, so too did every individual bear their load, propelled by unmistakable determination or folly. As you march forward, each step reaffirms your connection to the vast and complicated tapestry of history, a tapestry woven not only with grand movements of armies, but also with individuals like Gerald, who in their folly or brilliance leave indelible marks upon the world. The march is grueling, yes, but as you press onwards with each note from the piano, you cannot truly hear, and each bray from a goat you wish you couldn't, you become acutely aware of your own story weaving through the ages. The ground crunches beneath your feet as you trudge through the parched landscape, the sun glaring mercilessly overhead. Your stomach grumbles, echoing the emptiness you feel inside. Meals have become a distant memory, and what little food you encounter is far from appetizing. The bread once a staple is now as hard as the stones you kick on your weary march. It's a cruel irony that something so vital has transformed into an adversary, threatening to crack your teeth as you try to gnaw through its unexpected toughness. Your comrades share in your plight, their faces drawn and eyes hollow. Together, you choke down the dry peas, tiny pellets that coat your tongue and offer little in the way of sustenance. In a particularly dire moment, someone tries to salvage a morsel of protein from a place you'd never have guessed a fish stored in socks. Yes, actual socks. The smell is something of legend, permeating the air with an odor that lingers unpleasantly long after the attempt and failure to swallow. As days stretch into endless sequences of discomfort, your mind starts to wander. Hunger does not merely gnaw at your belly, it twists your thoughts into strange patterns. Ambling through a sparse patch of brambles, you and some companions resort to picking berries, rosy jewels of hope. Yet not all that glitters is gold, as you're quickly reminded when bitter remorse follows the bitter taste. They are berries that nature meant not for your stomach, and the ill effects follow swiftly. Your surroundings dance and swirl, teasing you with phantom feasts and banquet halls that blur upon closer inspection. It's then that Gerald comes into sharp focus, the group's inadvertent jester. His approach to this dire strait is a daring sort of disregard. Recklessly, he consumes what he can find, casting aside caution, like the sweeping gesture of a gamble. Seen munching on something no one else dares to touch, he shrugs off concerns with a grin that's equal parts foolish and brave. If there's anything to be admired, it's his stalwart refusal to let circumstance dictate his spirit. Historians often ponder these drastic measures and curious eating choices, wondering aloud how anyone survived the plight of such perilous quests. They still debate whether the Crusaders' persistence was driven more by desperation or sheer stubborn will. As you observe Gerald stapling together another makeshift menu of alternative edibles, you can't help but find a strange humor in these tragic circumstances. It's ridiculous, really, how something so fundamental as food can be both your antagonist and your source of absurdity. You keep moving, balancing precariously on the thin edge between starvation-induced absurdity and the solemn seriousness of your mission. The landscape doesn't change, but your perspective ever so slightly shifts. In these moments, while you step over yet another unyielding crust of bread, you find that in spite of hunger's gnawing grasp, it cannot fully extinguish the flicker of resilience within you. This unending journey continues step by step, among friends turned family enduring, together a saga, spun out of necessity and madness, where every day is an unexpected lesson in survival and solidarity. The sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the makeshift shelter where you find yourself. The day has been long filled with adventures, too numerous to count, and enough peculiar characters to fill several lifetimes. After a hearty meal of whatever could be foraged or traded, you consider the state of your own personal hygiene, a topic that has become an increasing source of both humor and horror amongst your comrades. You look down at your clothes, a patchwork of fabrics whose original colors are now buried beneath layers of grime and dust. Once vibrant, they now tell tales of countless journeys, adding their own unique fragrance to the collective aroma of the group. Soap, a luxury so rare that it's practically mythical, remains elusive. In its absence, you improvise, using whatever water source is available. Tonight, however, the nearby river is little more than a muddy trickle, teeming with anything but cleanliness. Dreams of a proper bath haunt your thoughts. You imagine warm water cascading over you, washing away the trials of your journey. Such visions are mere fantasies hindered by the stark reality of water, scarce, and rivers tainted with the refuse of countless travelers. As you sit there contemplating, a fellow traveler drifts past. To your astonishment, they are pristine clothing, remarkably free from the filth that clings to everyone else like a second skin. The sight is startling and stirs curiosity. The mysterious figure exudes an air of cleanliness, unlike anything you've seen in what feels like eons. Others whisper in tones of disbelief, eyeing the traveler with a mix of admiration and envy. How do they manage it? Is there some secret technique? A protected stash of rare cleansing herbs? You recall a nugget of advice passed among journeyers in medieval times. People often lacked the knowledge or resources for personal hygiene as we know it today. Interestingly, the extraction of urine was once a prized element in the creation of fabrics and dies. As for the putrid scent enveloping the camp, it's reminiscent of England in the Middle Ages, where open sewers lined the streets. Modern historians debate whether people truly bathed as infrequently as records suggest, interpreting accounts from long ago, where bathing might happen several times a year, if that. Humorously, you note that if anyone were to survive these historical festivities, they might invent a new type of nose peg or develop a special sense of smell blindness like a superpower. After all, survival demands adaptability, doesn't it? The absence of Gerald, your companion through much of this journey, is felt keenly tonight. His antics often served as a welcome distraction from the discomforts of travel. You chuckle at the memory of his last escapade, involving a daring attempt to fashion soap out of goat fat, a trick learned from a passing merchant who swore by its efficacy. The subsequent explosion of odor, however, ensured that no one would ever try that particular recipe again. Attempts to better your own situation have been met with mixed results. Previously, you tried an experiment using ash from the evening's fire, based on tales from older travelers, who once claimed that ash had some cleansing properties. It's said that Romans relied on odd mixtures, and a wanderer once stated that ash could help repel lice, a claim still met with skepticism in your circle. With the evening settling in, and the cool breeze carrying the familiar scents of wood smoke and earth, you find solace in the camaraderie of your fellow travelers. Their laughter echoing under the blanket of stars rises as someone jokes about the lack of bathing options, like it's a badge of honor, a testament to endurance and resilience. The clean traveler remains a topic of whispered speculation. Perhaps they possess a secret stash of soap or a hidden technique passed down through generations. Wild theories entertain the group, everything from enchanted fabrics to potions brewed by mystical beings. The truth, however elusive, becomes a source of mirth rather than enmity. The uncertainty of how things will proceed looms, yet the spirit of adventure keeps the mood light. You stretch out on the worn blanket, letting the cool air mingle with the warmth of the nearby fire. It's enough to gently cradle you into a state of peace, where the chaotic tapestry of the day's events starts to fade. The world slows as stars twinkle above each one, a silent witness to tales that have yet to be penned. The absence of a bath seems insignificant when measured against the weight of shared stories. These moments, precious and rare, weave the fabric of your memory. As the night deepens, you surrender to the gentle rhythms of the nocturnal world. The sounds of whispering winds and forest creatures create a natural symphony, lulling you towards sleep. With Gerald somewhere out there, surely on another silly adventure, and the stars' bright blessings above, you allow yourself to drift slowly into dreams. The imagination conjures visions of a fantastical bathhouse, endless and soothing, where all adventurers are finally clean. It is a comforting thought, a balm to the weary mind, allowing sleep to creep in softly, like a lullaby sung by ancient bards, as the night wraps around you in its gentle embrace. The warm hues of the evening sky slowly cede to the deepening blues of night, as the distant calls of the Crusades linger in the air. As the shadows lengthen, the dim glow of campfires marks the sprawling encampment where you find yourself among the weary Crusaders. The haphazard tents clatter softly in the breeze, providing little comfort against the chill that pervades not just the air, but the spirit of the men as well. All around you, signs of fatigue and anxiety seem etched into the very soil, echoing the countless footprints of those who've wandered before. You wander through the camp, each step a rhythmic crunch beneath your feet, and notice the first signs of trouble begin to surface. Some of your comrades are hunched around a sputtering fire, their strained faces flickering in the firelight. As you draw nearer, a severe cough splits the tense silence, rough and persistent like sandpaper against stone. It's the unmistakable herald of illness, stealthily weaving its way through the ranks. Medieval lore had its own ways of handling disease, often yielding to what could be generously termed as dancing with herbs. Healers dance a delicate ballet of prayer and potion, hoping to coax recovery from the grip of malady. Remedies range from the sensible application of herbs to the more dramatic ritual of bleeding, exerting mankind's primal will against nature's decree. Yet even amidst the whispers of these practices, a quiet truth lingers. There's an elusive enemy among you, less visible, but more pernicious than any you'd face on the battlefield. The prevalence of fever is soon accompanied by an orchestra of coughing throughout the camp. Each sound serves as a fearsome reminder that many of these men might not return from a journey they had so fervently embarked upon. Strange symptoms emerge, marked by the swelling and discomfort that sweep through the ranks, hinting at the infections that refuse to be ignored. A number of the afflicted Crusaders lie still, beads of sweat glistening upon their brows as they are ensconced in restless dreams. In the midst of this disquiet, Gerald, a burly fellow known for commanding attention, whether through jest or bold deeds, now approaches. Yet today, as he draws toward you, there's something profoundly amiss. His once robust neck now bears an ominous lump, a swelling that speaks silently of the troubles catching up with your cadre of warriors. Each encounter, each glance exchanged under the star-kissed skies serves to echo an unsettling truth. The threat your crew faces may not wear armor, nor wield a sword. The germs, unseen yet pervasive, silently challenge the might that wields the sword. Historians still debate whether the company truly understood the gravity of their microscopic foes, but one certainty rings true: camaraderie and willpower alone are tested in this clandestine battle. Little else could be done under the superficial cover of night, a canopy that obscures the face of the disease afflicting the encampment. As time orderly unfolds, carrying the burden of yet another day on to smooth transitions, you're left with these whispers of humanity's eternal dance with nature. With no immediate remedy in sight, you find yourself pondering the precarious balance, a crusade that battles more than just the scene teetering on the whims of fortune and medieval knowledge. The night stretches on seamlessly. As bravely as the Crusaders prepared for their journeys, the challenge they face now is one where their might needs more than resolve. It requires patience, fortitude, and the recognition of their own fragility in the face of forces unknown. The real victory lies not in the fight against foreign lands, but against the unseen enemies that strike silently, relentlessly. As you finish the round of your nightly vigil, the quiet persists, around the camp filled only by the occasional rustle of fabric against the breeze, making your walk back to the quarters, a reflective one measured by steps and by thoughts of what the morrow might bring. The journey continues, shadowed by clouds of discord and misunderstanding. You stroll along a narrow, dusty path that slices through rolling fields. Your armor clinks softly with each step, a metallic echo that seems to agitate the already wary eyes of the parishioners working nearby. Whispers ripple through the air. You suspect they are not thrilling tales of heroism. You catch snippets of words, none of which you understand, but the tones of suspicion and disdain are unmistakable. As you plod forward, two large eyes stare at you, bulging and curious. They belong to a goat idly chewing on grass. You smile and give a small nod, needing neither language nor formality to understand a vigilant shepherd's frustration. The goat, however, seems to interpret your nod as a proposition, and its bleating becomes a chorus of misunderstanding. Historians still debate whether local customs involve such gestures of goodwill, but here the gesture manifests as bewilderment. Attempting to navigate the complexities of cultural communication, you stop at a humble wooden stall selling bread. As you stand there piecing together the correct words from your limited repertoire, the stall's wizened owner offers a loaf. It appears fresh, but breaks underneath your grasp, revealing a disheartening staleness. You sigh, offering more coins than the loaf would usually command betrayal, hidden like a shadow between each crumbling slice. Fortunately, this transaction is simple coin, in return for a service, albeit an unsatisfying one. The market is alive with chattering voices, the air as thick with tension as it is with the inviting smells of roasted meats. Your presence feels as intrusive as a clumsy bear stumbling into these familiar forests. A child giggles somewhere behind you, probably at your foreign appearance, and the uh-oh moment earlier with the goat. In this place, Crusaders are considered a plague that marches, leaving discomfort in its wake. Lost in thought, you don't see what comes next. Suddenly, a surprising thud on your chest breaks the rhythm of the day. You blink down to realize that you're holding a somewhat deformed turnip, its outer layer dusted with the dirt of a local field. Color rushes to your cheeks, a mixture of amusement and annoyance. You glance around for the source, catching a smirk pulled taut across a nearby vendor's mouth. In this melee of simmering unease, the vendors seem to find a strange comfort in what might gall you most. With some sarcasm, you weigh the familiar turnip in your hand, contemplating its trajectory and the skill behind it. You imagine yourself a target of skill irony, not lost in the act itself. This understated hostility highlights the thin line between curiosity and apprehension that permeates this wandering life you have chosen. Amidst these tensions, your thoughts drift to the fraught global networks, the tangled veins of the past, linking cultures through trade wars and reluctant exchanges. Historians continue to speculate whether such interactions between Crusaders and locals manage to foster some positive cultural diffusion despite the apparent barriers of misunderstanding and language. Night falls gently over the village, the sky draped in velvety blues and twinkling stars. Perhaps it's the subtle lull of crickets churring their quiet symphonies, or the warmth of campfires burning across the distance that begins to ease the congealed discomfort in the air. You find a corner to rest, leaning against cool stone content to observe rather than intrude further into the villager's world. In the flickering twilight, questions gather like shadows. How many more of these tense standoffs does the road ahead hold? Will there ever be a bridge formed from this raw mire of misunderstanding? Remembering your sole purpose during this odyssey, you hope time might sand away the rough edges of such interactions and lay a foundation for more meaningful connections. Still troubled by the turnip incident, you exhale softly, releasing the day's oddities to the cool breeze. Tomorrow will bring new interactions and new opportunities for better understanding. For now, your weary mind accepts the comforting embrace of night, resting in the quiet acknowledgement that despite today's challenges, you are building your place within the tapestry of history. The Crusaders moved onward, a band of determined but directionless souls. You find yourself amongst them, trudging through lands that seem interminable. The maps, once a source of guidance, now betray your trust. They twist and mutate concoctions, perhaps more of imagination than truth, leading you nowhere. Instead of familiar symbols, they might as well be a jumble of lines and squiggles, each promising clarity, yet delivering confusion. As you follow the shifting lines on these unreliable scrolls, the reality of your path becomes clearer. Forests so dense with mist that you feel a ghost could slip in and out without detection, swamps where your boots are constantly entangled and greedily held hostage by the muck, and mountains that rise so steeply they seem determined to brush the heavens. The air is filled with the constant drone of fatigue, with each step a testament to your persistence despite the utter misdirection. Next to you, your fellow Crusaders mutter, under their breath, some in prayer, others cursing their fate. The initial cries for glory that spurred this journey echo less frequently, now replaced by a near-silent lament for what might have been left behind. Amidst this chaos, Gerald, a companion whose absence was long noted, makes his reappearance with a flourish that seems almost theatrical. You'd lost sight of him days ago, possibly absorbed into the folds of nature's labyrinth. Yet here he stands, eyes wide and gleaming with fervor, claiming he has heard divine whispers, though his words are often interrupted by gusty laughs that cut through the uneasy morale like a knife. Historians still debate whether Gerald was inspired or merely delusional, a prophet or a fool. Whichever it might be, his presence is now a constant weaving tales of celestial guidance. You watch him as he gestures towards a sky that offers little in terms of comfort, wondering whether his visions are a boon or another burden. With each night, the darkness carries a sobering serenity, but also amplifies the whispers, the rustling leaves, and creatures of the night take on a disquieting personality. Under the suspended canopy of stars that bears silent witness to your struggles, a light sarcasm persists within you. It nudges you to smile at the absurdity of your situation, recalling simpler distractions like the goat fat discussed earlier on this journey. For all the myths and legends crafted around the Crusades, one must admit the true map remains a mystery. Perhaps the famous navigate using star patterns and ancient lore unfurling across the heavens, but your crew stumbles consistently, outnumbered by nature's riddles. One particularly surprising night, as the campfire dwindles to embers, you hear tales of guides who purportedly slipped away under the cover of darkness, trading allegiance for self-preservation. Whether their motives stemmed from cowardice or sheer survival instinct remains unknown, yet it adds another layer to this expedition's unraveling morale. Through it all, your journey snakes onward through landscapes that shift from verdant to barren. Each twist in the trail seems deliberately crafted to test your resilience. Yet, as with any complex tome where inevitability guides the pen, the way forward remains the only path. You find a sense of ironic camaraderie amid the confusion, a shared understanding that even amongst desolation, the chaos becomes its own kind of structuring force, shaping you and the others into a story larger than intended or perhaps even noticed. As you reflect on this, you allow the weight of your own exhaustion to gently settle. The ambient sounds lulls you stray crickets, chirping the soft rustle of wind threading through branches as a subtle reminder of resilience both in nature and within. Consider the Crusaders' journey as yet another echo of history, not necessarily one of triumph, but rather of introspection and perseverance. In the vast weave of time, your wandering might not alter the tapestry of history in grand strokes, but in personal reflections, it layers subtleties only you can truly appreciate. And so you fold yourself into a lighter rest, accepting the wilderness as both adversary and ally, letting dreams tread softly upon your brow. Amidst the thrum of chaos, you find yourself standing on a battlefield where the expectations of glory rapidly dissolve into the muddied reality around you. The clattering of armor, the shouts of commands lost to the wind, and the relentless cacophony of clashing weapons make it hard to remember that not long ago you imagined this moment differently. The scene is a swirl of bodies and sounds, a clutter of obstructed views and uncertain intentions. Beneath the overcast sky, a gray haze seems hung over everything, rendering even your closest allies into shadowy figures, only faintly recognizable. Vision is your first challenge. The smoke from hastily made fires, mixed with dust kicked up from hundreds of boots, saturates the air, clogging your lungs and watering your eyes. You blink, repeatedly trying to clear your vision, only to realize that the smoke serves as both a marker of presence and an obscurer of action. In this disarray, even the placement of foes and friends blends together like a hasty painter's sketch. Your weapons in this berserk melee seem inadequate, an old sword barely sharp enough to slice through the fibrous defense of enemy shields. The sensation of it, bouncing and jarring in your grip, whenever met with a more modern implement, is jarring. It's as if your weaponry suffered from the same age as the stories told by firelight. Venerable yet ineffective in this practical, brutal test. In a spectacle that could have been comedic, if not for the dire circumstances, Gerald, your compatriot, borrows a shield from a fallen soldier, not for aid in battle, but for the peculiar purpose of frying bacon on a small campfire he's managed to keep alive amidst the turmoil. An enterprising use of wartime chaos, indeed. There was a certain idiocy and genius melded in his action which caused a faint smile to briefly flicker across your lips. Unfortunately, as fate would have it, Gerald's timing to return, the shield couldn't have been poorer. Just as the oncoming wave of younger, more practiced adversaries bore down, he handed it back, leaving you exposed to the onslaught with nothing more between you and them than your rusty sword and determination. These young warriors' adherents of a new kind of battle strategy moved with a precision and discipline that felt off-puttingly alien in comparison to your ragtag collection of reluctant combatants. Their training evident in their coordinated advances, unlike your troops' rather basic tactic of yelling and charging full tilt, a legacy of more romantic tales of old, where vigor and noise were meant to win the day. Equally mystifying is the realization that this first battle, once imagined as a cascade of heroics and valor, is instead a messy, disappointing dance of survival. Historians often paint battles with broad strokes of grandeur, but rarely do they capture the nuanced texture of uncertainty that each soldier grapples with individually. Here, amidst the tumult, it becomes starkly clear that the glory so often tied to these engagements is overshadowed by the intimate quiet terror of standing in the mud surrounded by chaos. Among the peculiarities, the smell of bacon in the midst of battle, a reminder of home and comforts left behind, cut through the earthy tones of sweat and iron. It beckons a small respite, if only in the mind, and underscores the mix of domesticity and destruction that you navigate. Moreover, historians still debate whether such improvisation and mundane maintenance were common. Did many soldiers use the implements of war for domestic survival like Gerald, or were these isolated pockets of reprieve, the exceptions whispered anecdotes shared in later peace times, when merry experiences were needed to counter the grim shadows of memory? With each swing, each clumsy step through the stew of gore and grit, it becomes increasingly apparent that heroism here is a quiet, personal matter. Valorous tales spun from battles before you are reframed, no longer standing as crisp as the banners so often described. In these up-close encounters, it's simple endurance and returning to the fray time again, despite the heart's desire to flee, that shapes the true heart of courage. Standing side by side, you and your allies press against the relentless tide. As your focus narrows, Gerald's oddities fade from your mind, leaving you with the stark clarity needed to survive. You soon realize, just as with the historical fact that ancient armies often met battle in formation, but entered chaos on contact. that each engagement is an isolated struggle. In the grand mayhem of war, each man for himself, yet for the good of all. And somewhere amidst the flailing limbs and cries of the clash lies the untouched, unromantic grind of conflict, where each pause, however brief, whispers silently of peace to come, reminding you of the wider world beyond these fields of strife, where stories of glory give way to tales of endurance and survival. You feel the heat wrapping around you like an unyielding embrace, the kind that makes your armor glow with a ferocious warmth, transforming it into a personal oven set too high. The sun beats relentlessly, reflecting off the metal plates with such intensity that a mirage dances on the horizon. You regret every step under this glaring blaze, yearning for the cool shade of a tree that isn't there. This is the moment you realize that despite your bravery and resolve, you probably won't survive this, not without some interesting tales to tell. The road ahead morphs from dusty trails into a sticky quagmire, as if to counter the heat skies open fiercely, turning dry paths into mucky rivers that swallow boots whole. Each attempt to move is met with the slippery suction of mud clinging to you. If only you'd considered the weather more your enemy than any rival knight waiting to cross blades. In such mess, every step forward is a gamble, and yet you persist, perhaps driven by an unseen force, or the tales of heroism in song and story. Celebrated historian Edward Gibbon remarked that the decline of ancient armies was often due to logistical nightmares rather than battlefield defeats. His insight might comfort you, but right now, it feels like the elements themselves are conspiring against you. They batter the body and test the spirit more fiercely than any foe you've encountered so far. A sudden chill cuts through the rain, a whisper of winter that sends an involuntary shiver down your spine. The air bites sharp, turning breath to fog, and crusting the edges of swords with a delicate glaze of ice. Each shiver sets armor rattling, a reminder of the precariousness of your situation. The ice is a beautiful enemy, turning tools and weapons into frozen weights, heavier than any burden you've yet had to shoulder. Then there's Gerald, poor bumbling. Gerald, whose armor always seems out of place, even when it's meticulously polished. One misstep on this tumultuous journey, and he finds himself toppled face first into a rather inopportune spot of cow dung. The unexpected turn is met with a chorus of laughter, yours included, breaking the tension for a moment. Even the most seasoned warrior can find themselves humbled by nature's pitfalls after all. And for centuries, people have noted that humor is the best remedy when the world turns heavy. Many a bard would echo this sentiment in ancient taverns. While you wrestle with the road beneath your feet, the deeper truth becomes increasingly clear. Nature is not just the backdrop to your journey, but the central figure against whom all battles will be measured. Through history, this constant foe has dictated the rise and fall of great plans. Historians still debate whether the great lost army of Cambyses Siku, swallowed by a sandstorm in the Egyptian desert, was a victim of nature's wrath or mere human folly. More than enemy troops or strategies unfolded in tents, it is the turn of the weather, the pros and cons of each season you travel through, that determine your fates. With each drenching rain, each biting chill and searing heat. You learn anew the lesson taught so insistently by the forces around you. Respect the earth, for she will always be stronger than the proudest knight. As the clouds begin to disperse and the mud hardens in the warming light, you find your resolve. Though nature bares her teeth with unpredictable ferocity, it's in your blood to persevere, much like the explorers from ages past who charted treacherous seas and vast continents. You are a storyteller on a path less predictable, veined with moments of unexpected joy, like Gerald's mishap and whispered mysteries awaiting just beyond the horizon. Each trial you face nests within it the promise of triumph, to rise, to endure, and ultimately to embrace the grand tapestry of life's journey. The road continues, and so do you, drawing closer to an unknown yet strangely welcoming adventure, where every step writes its own history upon the winding paths you tread. Feeling the weight of the world settle on your eyelids, you drift gently through the corridors of time. The year is 1097, and the ground beneath your feet shakes with the footsteps of armies gathered for the first crusade. The night sky is vast and dotted with stars that know secrets you're about to uncover. You wander into a bustling camp where knights, nobles, and city folk gather under the luminescence of moonlit banners, flapping like the whispered prophecies of old. Where you stand, history is alive and, well, a little complicated. It turns out, uniting the diverse cultures of the Crusaders was a Herculean task. On one hand, you have the Roman Catholics charging full of zeal hearts, set on reclaiming the holy city. On the other, the Byzantine Orthodox, lingering with hesitation eyes, wary like cats assessing a curious dog. These two groups, both Christians yet with different visions, don't always see eye to eye on whether they're mentoring or manipulating each other. You chuckle softly, watching the two factions weave a delicate dance of power and piety. To complicate matters further, you're surrounded by boiling undercurrents within the Muslim world. Instead of presenting a united front, different factions clash. The Seljuks, fierce and formidable as ever, rule over the lands, yet find their authority questioned by Fatimids and other sects, like a playground clique on the verge of a rowdy tussle. And just when you think that's quite enough personalities for one mystical evening, here comes a twist that makes you chuckle. A character named Gerald proposes to solve these entangled webs with a duel. Ah, Gerald, your idealism is both charming and a bit naive. Say, how does one duel internal theological disputes anyway? The idea is as whimsical as trying to outstare the moon. You look around and see historians still debate whether this suggestion was more than a jest. Was it gallant bravado, or a genuine attempt to sidestep more bloodshed? Either way, it paints a picture of human absurdity. You imagine Gerald standing boldly envisioning an arena where squabbling leaders exchange swordplay instead of sieges, adding new meaning to cutting theological nuances. In this patchwork of ambitions and anxieties, you can't help but note the layers of misunderstanding that pepper conversations like bees buzzing around insistent blooms. Each group clings to cultural preconceptions as surely as knights grip their hilts, perhaps finding solace in the familiar amidst foreign lands. The tension is palpable, a rope fraying its ends, swaying precariously. Yet there is hope, lying under the tents and whispers, the wish that unifying for a righteous purpose might weave these disparate threads into a tapestry divine. Though alliances stretch and falter, they symbolize humanity's relentless pursuit of something greater, even when that pursuit is paved with potholes of pride and pitfalls of prejudice. Silence creeps over the camp like a comforting fog. You watch as disagreements dissolve under the shared sky, the night's cool caress, soothing weary minds. Echoes of disputes fade into the background, replaced by the soundtrack of shared stories and shared dreams punctuated by the occasional snore from a tent nearby. As the peaceful rhythm of the night envelops you, you feel a gentle tug at the edges of consciousness. You realize there's a lesson tucked away in this chaotic conundrum, a bedtime tale reminding us that as far back as history remembers, differences, while daunting, are also what make the nights memorable, and the stars sparkle just a little brighter. The march continued, your footsteps echoing amid the growing cacophony of voices and the clatter of makeshift armors. You found yourself amidst an unexpected ensemble, each character contributing their peculiar essence to the bustling, disorderly Crusader army. To your left marched a stout baker, his rolling pin held aloft like a scepter, his crimson cheeks puffed up with pride, mirroring the loaves he used to knead to life each dawn. Was he dreaming of delivering French baguettes to the Holy Land, or just eager to bake a legend with flour and valor? Historians still debate whether he ever returned to his oven, or if he was consumed by the cravings of fortune and adventure. Beside the baker, a monk stumbled forward, drawing your attention with a string of inventive curses. The holy man's brown robe flapped like a flag of defiance. How he ended up here abandoning cloistered peace for this ragtag parade was anyone's guess. Perhaps he saw salvation, or perhaps something more mundane, a chance to rinse his soul's ledger amidst the chaos of man's grand folly. Whichever it was, his unholy vernacular reminded you of old French night tales, where valor wasn't all chivalry and hymns, but also brawn and blasphemy. Amongst the rumbling mass, children scampered with wide eyes and giggles that peeked through the groans of adults. Despite the gravity of the Crusades, these small figures were drawn in like moths to the flaming torch of history, seemingly unaware of the epic gravity that loomed over everyone. Their presence was as baffling for you as it was for the leaders who glanced at their elfish allies with bemused indulgence. Were they heirs to free lands, or just destined to learn early what it meant to trail after tidal waves of human dreams crashing onto foreign shores? In this patchwork of fate's pilgrims, one figure stood distinct, re-emerging like a veiled mirage from fables you half remembered. It was Gerald, known now within your circle as God's Muscle. His bronze seemed carved from the very stones of the Holy Sepulchre themselves. Under the midday sun, he shone with a divine glimmer, a protector and paragon. Each swing of his mighty sword exuded an aura of sanctified strength, yet he also possessed a smile that whispered salvation and camaraderie alike. Some wondered if he was more monk than fighter, or perhaps a new breed, entirely an earnest champion molded for times such as these. The army swelled with such disparate spirits, each beating to its own rhythm, yet together forming a chaotic symphony. It strayed from the path of one distinct purpose, as messy and human as the brush strokes on an artist's unfinished canvas. And through it all, the ghostly echoes of more structured armies lingered, a Roman cohort, a phalanx of Greeks, reminding you that order once graced the battlefields, unlike this sprawling circus. As you traversed the landscape, there was an odd comfort in this assembly of oddities. As each day waned into dusk, and soldiers shared their meager stories beside the campfires, you saw how these fragments might somehow fit into an unexpected mosaic. Tales of angels watching over Achaean sands, and relics of saintly visionaries. All these lent warmth to the night's chill. And so, your weary eyes found solace in this strange band, where the ordinary met the divine, in hues of unpredictable life. Always moving forward, the pulse of history pressed against you, whispering that though your companions might be drawn from mismatched pages, the saga you etched together was inseparable from the march of time. Tomorrow's morning would bring another new road, but tonight you could rest in the affirmation that among such chaotic diversity, you were part of a path never before seen, coiling around past victories, winding under skies, yet unknown, drawn toward destinies, yet unfurling like the petals of an eternal bloom. As the dawn breaks over the sleepy siege camp, gentle rays of light reveal a scene brimming with ramshackle machinery and scattered soldiers, each just as exhausted as you. The night had been long filled with such excitement and chaos that it almost seemed like the world itself was a part of your makeshift army. You rise from your tattered blanket, still hearing the echoes of the commands that pierced the night air. It's that distinct pre-battle tension, underscored by the creaking of wooden structures and the unmistakable scent that could only be described as a curious mix of scorched earth and sweat-worn optimism. Your companions, as bleary-eyed as yourself, are mulling around the central fire pit, its embers barely alive, much like the spirit among them. Drawing closer, you can't help but notice the skeletal remains of what was intended to be a mighty assault engine. Historians still debate whether catapults of such design were ever meant to bear the weight of so many stones, or if they were nothing more than a fanciful dream of a young engineer. Nonetheless, there it lay, a silent testament to the flawed brilliance of human ambition. Nearby, the charred remains of a battering ram tell the tale of its hasty craftsmanship, a ram not quite fierce enough to withstand the flames of defenders. The irony isn't lost on you. A weapon of war undone by the very element it was meant to conquer. Just like catapults that scattered their ammunition haphazardly, this once proud ram lies as a testament to the unpredictable nature of such endeavors. The city walls loom in the distance, imposing and unyielding their ancient stones, bearing witness to countless sieges over generations. Beneath their shadow, the soldiers muster a renewed energy. The faint sense of smoke, dust, and something more sinister pervade the atmosphere, remnants of a battlefield that soak into your very being. With an air of nervous trepidation, Your comrades rally together for another assault. In the din and clatter of preparation, as shields are readied and swords sharpened, a peculiar sight arrests you: a small, scraggly cat nestled comfortably in the ruined wheel of a catapult. It's a strange juxtaposition, this moment of serene calm in the eye of an otherwise chaotic storm. Without thinking, you scoop up the creature, its warmth, a soothing presence in the maelstrom of activity. The day stretches on, and soon the symphony of war comes crashing down around you. Screams and shouts blend with the clang of clashing metal, a cacophonous concert that strangely harmonizes into the rhythm of combat. The city is finally breached, not through might or planning, but sheer force of numbers and determination. Bodies swarm the streets in a chaotic dance surging forward, like a river defying its banks. Victory is declared amidst this anarchy, humbling in its raggedness, yet astonishing in its triumph. In the aftermath, you wander the alleyways, the little cat tucked under one arm, a mirage of normalcy in a world turned upside down. There's an almost unreal sense of quiet here, the city's heart beating steady beneath the echoing tumult. As you pass forgotten corners and whispering walls, you begin to wonder what it all meant. The fear, the frenzy, the fire-scorched ground. Had it been worth such a cost? As your thoughts drift, a familiar voice cuts through the inner musings, Gerald, your companion in both chaos and contemplation. With an exaggerated bow and a sweeping gesture, he declares a self-fashioned title of utmost gravity, Lord of the Alleyway. Gerald's humor, as always, is a comforting counterbalance to the severity of your surroundings. His proclamation elicits a chuckle, a brief reprieve that allows the shadows of doubt momentarily to fade. It's in this shared laughter and mutual absurdity that you find solace. Here, amidst the rubble jewels of camaraderie and the simple existence of a stray cat, remind you of the resilience of the human spirit, the beauty found even in the wake of destruction. The day wanes, the weary sun slowly sinking into the horizon, casting a gentle amber glow over the ground. It is peaceful now, and unconsciously, your troubled heart slows to match the calming pace of the evening. You find a quiet corner to rest the little cat, nuzzling into you, a tangible reminder of life's small joys. In this twilight moment, you ponder the meaning of it all, the relentless cycle of human endeavor driven by hope, fear, and the occasional folly. Though answers remain elusive, there's a comfort in the questions themselves, a lullaby of contemplation that softly cradles you towards sleep. Gently, the world around you fades into whispers of dreams, the echoes of history weaving delicately into the night. As you sit under the wide open sky on this quiet night, you find yourself back from the crucible of the Crusades, a journey that took you across long, dusty roads, through shadowy woods, and beneath foreign stars. It has been a long journey, both glorious and harrowing. And though the heroic songs sang of valor and triumphs, what sticks with you now is far more complex. The scars you bear more than those visible on your skin are etched deep within your mind and soul. A sense of weariness settles in your bones, signifying years of battles and a lifetime's worth of experiences packed into a span of just a few years. You reflect on the inexorable passage of time, Your youth, once vibrant and boundless, seems now like a memory from another age. History sometimes captures grand events, but overlooks the quieter transformation of the individual soul. The intense zeal and unquestioning faith that propelled you forth have begun to show cracks. Doubts have slipped in like fine, subtle fractures in a stone facade. You remember when you rode out with an unwavering belief, but now you start to wonder, were the battles you fought driven by divine purpose or the mere ambitions of men? Gerald, your old companion in arms, often finds solace in poetry, though admittedly it isn't very good. Yet in his clumsy stanzas, there is a simple honesty, a raw attempt to grapple with the chaos left in the Crusades' wake. His words are more candidly true than the tales of knights and kings. He writes of the mundane, the bitter cold of mornings intense, the relentless sun over barren fields, and the silence where once was chatter among comrades lost. There's irony here, too. You think a crusade meant for glory painted in such somber terms. The reality of your story seems far removed from the grandiose expectations others hold those tales of chivalry and conquest. History books often gloss over the ordinary aspects of life during these times, the grinding fatigue, the monotonous days, the constants of hunger and thirst. Yet sometimes you need to ground oneself in these truths to fully comprehend the path you've trodden. Historians still debate whether the launching of the Crusades was driven by religious fervor or more political machinations. You've lived it. Decisions often blurred those lines. One particular incident stands out today when a rare, colorful bird, not unlike the ones you once studied in the monastery as a boy, perched near your camp. It had brought a moment's peace amid chaos, a small reminder of God's beauty amidst the carnage of war. And yet moments like these left you pondering the deeper whys of existence and suffering, kindling a yearning for home, and setting seeds of doubt and perhaps enlightenment that would never truly leave you. You realize, too, how your relationship with your companions has evolved. Trust and camaraderie welded in the forge of combat are underscored by the shared silence now that battles are fewer and farther between. The songs sung around campfires speak of camaraderie, yet it's the unsung lulls that bring you closer as you each wrestle with your reflections of the past. And in this ebb and flow of reflection, you find a strange dichotomy, the man you were and the person you've become. Perhaps the Crusades changed you. Maybe they just revealed who you truly are. Amidst this turmoil, a softening, gentle breeze begins to flow, echoing the voice of the past and the whispers of those yet to come. As the night deepens, so does your introspection, etching in your heart an understanding life rarely hands out in clear, certain answers. Amidst the grandiosity and tragedy, you sleep more soundly than one might expect, lulled by the gentle rhythm of the world around you. You realize that change is an undeniable part of the human condition. The aging process reminds you of the beauty to be found in life's impermanence and the importance of savoring every moment, however simple it may seem. As you listen to Gerald's earnest recitations, you no longer see them as simply bad poetry. They are attempts like feeble starlight fighting through clouds to make sense of it all, to capture something ineffable about experience and reflection a soft cry into the void. The moon drapes her silver cloak over the landscape. Stars twinkle familiarly above, carrying on their celestial dance, as they have for centuries undisturbed by human conflict. These celestial sentinels remind you that life's constant motion mirrors celestial epics. Life is full of paradoxes. A crusade's valor hides personal suffering. Faith both blinds and nourishes. And where bad poetry falters, truth sometimes emerges unstained by elaborate verse. As you drift into sleep, let the lessons of the Crusades wash over you. Remain open to doubt, for it's in these uncertainties that truths often begin to glitter softly, much like those stars above, guiding you gently through the night to a soft, calming rest. As you stand beneath the towering figures of the Beni Hassan wall paintings, the cool ancient stones serve as windows into a mystical world of Egyptian wrestling. The figures on the walls come alive, etching stories of strength and skill across the surfaces of your mind. The air around you is thick with the whispers of the past. It is as if the ancient dust shifts slightly under the weight of these long-held secrets. You're guided carefully through the series of wrestling stances depicted by these ancient artists. The ancient Egyptians were well versed in this martial art, one that served both as sport and as a pillar of cultural identity. As your eyes follow the painted wrestlers' movements, you sense the precision and elegance embedded within each artistic stroke. With every flexed muscle and poised stance, you appreciate how these techniques were carefully crafted and refined through time. In the stillness, a voice as soft as sand crossing the desert recounts to you the legendary match between Horus and Set. Here, wrestling isn't just about physical prowess or strategic grip. It's a celestial contest mirroring the eternal struggle between chaos and order. On one hand, Horus embodies the essence of structure and legitimacy, a symbol of renewal and balance. On the other, Set revels in discord, his wildness, a force almost necessary to challenge the status quo. Imagine their battle beneath the blazing Egyptian sun, with Horus's falcon eyes fixed sharply on victory, while Set's cunning rushes through the veins of the earth beneath their feet. Through wrestling, a sacred tapestry wove itself into the very fabric of their mythology, offering a glimpse into how such contests echoed far beyond mere recreation and into the balance of the universe itself. As the narratives unfold before you, historians continue their endless debates about the true origins of this martial art. Was it truly conceived from the imaginations of those ancient artists watching their heroes clash beneath the desert skies? Or perhaps these techniques were borrowed and seasoned like the fragrant spices carried along the trade routes, absorbing influences from afar before becoming distinctly Egyptian. Yet not all is as it appears. A surprising twist of detail emerges when you discover that sometimes champions greased their bodies with oils, making themselves slippery and elusive, much like the stories woven by the ancients themselves. Despite this slippery tactic, the matches demanded far more than dexterous escapes. They required a spiritual resonance with the culture and history of Egypt, a dance in time where the body became a conduit for communal narrative and spiritual connection. The paintings seemed to pulse with life, urging you to remember how each stance perfected on those temple floors transcended mere physicality. These athletes, part warrior and part storyteller, affirmed their place in history with every clash and fall. Wrestling in ancient Egypt was more than a sport. It was a celebration, a religious expression, and a poignant reminder of their mythical heritage. Standing there, the echoes of ancient chants seemed to drift faintly on the breeze, and you can almost hear the soft patter of footsteps centuries ago as warriors prepared to enter the fray. You find yourself fascinated by this ancient dance, captivated by the notion that even in times when language was bound to spoken word, and pictographs wrestling offered its own universal lexicon. With these thoughts closing in like the kindly embrace of an old friend, you turn away from the rituals of paint and stone. But their stories have seeped into your consciousness, ensuring that even in the tranquility of night, the ancient rhythms will resonate within you. As gentle sleep draws close, the spirits of Horus and Set spiral around, continuing their eternal dance across your dreaming mind, leading you softly into rest. As the years passed in the bustling heart of Rome, you find yourself stepping into the world of the ludus, the infamous training ground of gladiators. The ancient aroma of sweat metal and determination hovers in the air. Here, surrounded by towering stone walls, young men, some with the fierce glint of ambition in their eyes, others resigned to their fate, train under the watchful eye of a seasoned lanista. Your journey through this realm of brute strength and strategic cunning is both awe-inspiring and a touch intimidating. You watch as a new recruit, barely more than a boy, takes his place in the gritty arena. He clutches a trident with unsure hands, destined to become a retiarius. Light and agile, a retiarius wields his weapon alongside a weighted net, his minimal armor at odds with the heavily clad secutor, his traditional opponent. The young retiarius is nimble darting here and there like Mercury himself, preparing to battle an opponent clad in solid protection. The secutor enters with an air of quiet confidence helmet, modeled to minimize exposure, with only a slim eye slit to peer through. There's a hum of anticipation amongst the spectators and trainers as these trainees begin their carefully orchestrated dance, one that seamlessly blends art with violence. Here, combat is not merely survival. It is an amalgamation of drama and skill, designed to entertain the multitudes who flock to the Colosseum. The seasoned lanista calls out for a break, the harshness of his voice softened by years spent among warriors. Training here is rigorous, designed to hone both physical prowess and mental agility. Every move practiced under the searing gaze of the sun is one step closer to stepping into that grand arena. Historians still debate whether this training was more about the craft of warfare or the spectacle of performance, but the line was forever blurred, as gladiators were honed not just as fighters, but as icons of spectacle and might. As you wander through the ludus, it strikes you how much politics entwine with the brutality of this world. Each fight means more than life or death. It holds sway over public opinion, supports the whims of the powerful, and sometimes even decides the fates of nations. The lanista holds stories too, a bone-chilling reminder of Spartacus, the slave who dared to defy Rome. His name flickers through your mind, a legend twisted in both glory and tragedy, each twist of his rebellion complex with unrecorded nuances. Spartacus himself was once among these ranks, training under similar conditions, his strength and cunning lighting a spark that would eventually grow into a blaze of rebellion. The mention of his name leaves a ripple through the air, a testament to the impact one gladiator could wield over both the sands of the arena and the annals of history. His story, like many, teetered on the brink of myth and history, with scholars still debating the details of his legendary stand against the might of Rome. The harshness of training eases for the evening, the sun dipping below the horizon, casting long shadows over the trampled sand. Fatigued yet exhilarated, the young gladiators retreat to their quarters, each step closer to wrest another, toward either fame or oblivion. For now, at least, the air is quiet, save for the distant sounds of laughter and reassurance echoing from within. Here in this lull, the promise of sleep beckons, whispering the peace that only night can bring, despite the battles ahead. For now they can rest. As you let your eyes drift closed, imagine the stories you've heard tonight. The clashing swords, the swish of the net through the air, the glint of strategic calculation in the eyes of a secutor. Remember Spartacus, who moved beyond these walls and into legend. Reflect on the blend of art, politics, and violence, the spectacles crafted here for the eternal amusement and favor of the crowds. Tonight, let history's weight rest lightly on your shoulders and succumb to the serenity found in understanding the past. Relax, knowing that even in a world driven by conflict, there exists a rhythmic dance of tradition and endurance. Allow the narrative of the ludus to gently fade as the quiet hum of your surroundings guides you into the depths of slumber. Here's to finding peace within the echoes of history and the soft caress of calm that follows. May you dream not of battles, but of stories, and the ever-receding mysteries within them. You open your eyes to the glow of early morning, streaming through the wooden slats of a weathered house, nestled in the lush green hills of Kerala. The air smells of earth, and the spice carrying hints of cardamom, and the dew-kissed leaves of tea plantations that stretch far beyond the horizon. As you rise from the bamboo mat, still drowsy from last night's journey, through the tales of ancient realms, you feel the cool touch of terracotta tiles beneath your feet, grounding you in this vibrant landscape. Today your path leads you through the ancient art of Kalaripayattu, considered one of the world's oldest martial arts, originating from the rich cultural tapestry of southern India. As you step outside, the morning mist caresses your face, a gentle reminder of nature's fleeting beauty, one you probably won't survive too long if you get too comfortable given the mystique and power contained within these hills. You walk guided by the distant rhythm of a drumbeat, drawing you toward a clearing where warriors train with precision and grace. They move in harmony, each gesture a deliberate dance. Here the art of Kalaripayattu is not merely a form of combat. It is a philosophy, a discipline that ties mind, body, and soul together in a harmonious blend. It whispers of balance between aggression and restraint action and meditation. Historically, Kalaripayattu holds tales of valiant warriors and colonial resistance, a testament to the resilience woven into its very movements. Its practitioners draw from the knowledge of Ayurveda, channeling ancient techniques to both defend and heal. As you observe, a mentor guides a young student through a series of forms called Mepayattu, a term referring to the body's awareness and control over movement. The fluid stretches and swift kicks are mesmerizing, akin to a carefully choreographed dance honoring both earth and sky. In their hands you notice the Urumi sword, a weapon as graceful as it is deadly. This flexible steel whip-like blade curls with every flick of the wrist-blending art and danger in a dance of elegance. The Urumi requires balance and precision, embodying the sophistication and unpredictability of Kalaripayattu itself. Every warrior appears to bear an intimate connection to this fascinating tool, using it as an extension of their will. You watch as they wield the sword with both reverence and audacity, each twist and flourish defying what you thought possible. Curiously, some historians still debate whether the Urumi's creation was born from necessity during times of disarmament or as an evolution of the warrior's artistic expression. Regardless of its origins, its presence commands respect, both on the battlefield and in the dojo heartbeats, quickening in rhythm with its swooping arcs. Crafted to adapt and evolve, Kalaripayattu itself has withstood centuries of change, its survival, a testament to its capability as both guardian and sage. It grew alongside history, absorbing the intricacies of varied cultures and philosophies, shaping its identity through adversity. As you stand as witness, you ponder the lesson it offers, one of resilience, balance, and harmony with life's chaotic essence. Underpinning this martial art is the constant interplay between combat and healing. Practitioners invest as much time perfecting therapeutic bodywork and the preparation of herbal remedies as they do their fighting techniques. This fusion with Ayurveda underlines the inherent philosophy of balance, an understanding that every blow has its counterforce, that life thrives in moderation and harmony. As the sun begins its gentle descent, casting long shadows across the training ground, you find yourself pondering the intricacies of such an art, one that transcends its own time. For Kalaripayattu doesn't merely teach defense, it invites those who practice it into a deeper understanding of the world and oneself, a philosophy that encompasses the health of body, mind, and even spirit, always striving for equilibrium. In this tranquil moment, you realize that within this ancient practice lies not just the wisdom of battle, but a gentle reminder of coexistence, of finding peace, even amidst proclaimed chaos. As you carry these reflections back through the scenic path, lined with towering coconut trees swaying in the evening breeze, the day's learning settles into your very being. You sense a connection to the land and the elements, the stories of warriors singing softly in your mind. Your journey today is but one step a pearl within the grand tapestry of history's necklace, where each segment holds its own narrative, bonding the past and the present. Kalaripayattu's essence clings to you as a guidepost, among life's chaotic corridors, invoking power in peace, defending with grace. As you return to your resting place, the soft, familiar embrace of your humble bed welcomes you back. Let the lull of distant drums close your eyes, knowing the tales of legendary warriors will continue to dance through your dreams. You wander through the misty mountain paths in ancient China, where the air is fresh and crisp, with whispers of history tangled in the breeze. Among the towering trees and serene landscapes, you come across a group of disciplined monks clad in simple saffron robes, practicing a dance that is part martial, part meditation. This is Shaolin Kung Fu, a form of martial art as old as myths and as profound as a monk's silent meditation. It all began with a man named Bodhidharma who arrived at the Shaolin temple, his robes billowing around him like mysterious stories waiting to be shared. Historians still debate whether he was an Indian prince or a simple monk. What remains constant, however, is the legacy he left, a unique harmony of spiritual discipline and physical excellence. He introduced Zen philosophy, a practice of deep meditation that sought to calm the mind and enlighten the soul, which soon became intertwined with the physical art of Kung Fu. As you watch the monks flow gracefully from one stance to another, their movements mimicking animals with innate precision, the Shaolin Kung Fu system drew inspiration from nature itself. Watch as one monk hops joyously like a crane, another sweeps low like a serpent poised to strike, and yet another pounces with the ferocity of a tiger. The monks don't just emulate these creatures. They personify them, becoming agile like the monkey, steadfast like the ox, and elusive like the leopard. Imagine the surprise of watching grown men and women who spent years mastering such elegant fierceness, tucked neatly beneath serene smiles and composed faces. They train not just bodies, but minds, building strength from stillness and focus from silence. There is a saying that one's true enemy is within. This is a core lesson of the Shaolin philosophy, where defeating inner turmoil is seen as much of a victory as any external conquest. Yet there is more than stern training and spiritual pursuit on this path. Picture the mischievous twinkle in the monks' eyes as they recount tales of legendary matches and historical feats, each story infused with humor and subtly mocking the severity of challenges they overcame. Like a playful sparring session, each tale is met with laughter and knowing nods, just as it must have been shared throughout the ages. Shaolin Kung Fu is more than just a path to spiritual enlightenment and physical prowess. It's a tradition carried across boundaries and eras. One notable traveler of this path was Bruce Lee, whose lightning-fast moves and philosophical musings captured the world's imagination. Yet many aren't aware of the depth behind his impactful words and rhythm of his movements. They resonate with echoes from those ancient halls of the Shaolin temple, whispers from the distant past mingling with the present. You witness here a blend, a careful mix of tradition and innovation, each step and each breath, a testament to the resilience of an art form that evolved in tandem with human history. It's in this interplay between the tangible and the intangible, the ferocious and the peaceful, that Shaolin Kung Fu finds its true place in the world. Some places speak loudly with their silence, wrapping you up in tales from a time before memory. Shaolin Temple is one such place, its timelessness carrying through each kick, each breath, and each laugh that echoes through its quiet halls. You, an observer of this living history, join in this legacy simply by acknowledging it, adding your own breath to the rhythm of this ancient dance. As you shift from foot to foot, mirroring a simple stance, you become part of the tapestry, a blend of past and present strength and peace, doubt and discovery. This story is not just of monks or of martial artists. It is the story of anyone who seeks balance, who finds beauty in harmony, and who knows that in every ending another beginning lies quietly waiting. As you move through this tale, may you carry with you the stillness of meditation and the stamina of martial artistry. Dim the lights, close your eyes, and breathe deep as you drift off on this journey. A journey where each night carries whispers of the past flowing seamlessly into dreams as you continue to wander, explore, and learn. You step through the wooden entryway of an ancient dojo where the air feels heavy with history and discipline. The floorboards creak underfoot, whispering secrets of countless samurais who have trained here before you. Dim lantern light flickers against the paper walls, casting soft shadows that dance in time with your curiosity. Your journey today leads you into the heart of samurai martial arts, a world where the swish of a katana and the silent power of a jujutsu grip echo through time. Here, combat is as much an art form as it is a deadly skill, requiring a marriage of physical prowess and mental acuity. Imagine standing in the center of a training yard, encircled by fellow warriors. Each holds a wooden sword, bakken poised and ready. As you steady your breath, feeling the wood grain beneath your fingers, you can almost sense Miyamoto Musashi, arguably the most famous samurai, standing beside you. His spirit whispers that the secret to mastery lies not simply in strength, but in the fluidity of mind and body, something he illustrated through his own legendary journey. Historians recount Musashi's undefeated record in his 61 duels, a testament to his unparalleled skill and strategic genius. Yet beyond the adrenaline of battle, he held a philosophy that transcended mere swordplay, Bushido, the way of the warrior. It was a code of honor that guided the samurai, blending martial prowess with virtues like integrity, respect, and self-control. Picture yourself contemplating this philosophy, meditating after a day of rigorous training. The soft rustle of a bonsai tree outside your window becomes the soundtrack to your thoughts. You reflect on the balance between the warrior's heart and the calm of a serene mind, a juxtaposition that the samurai achieved with unparalleled grace. But there's more to their martial world beyond swinging swords and philosophical musings. Jujutsu, the art of flexibility and unarmed combat, was equally integral. This discipline relies not on brute force, but on the ability to yield, redirecting your opponent's energy with a strategic deftness. It's said that the softest touch could unseat the mightiest warrior, a gentle reminder that sometimes it's not strength but adaptability that ensures victory. As you drift deeper into this reflection, you learn that many techniques of jujutsu were developed out of necessity. Armor clad on the battlefield, a samurai's sword might break or be lost. In such moments, the swift motion of jujutsu offered salvation, enabling them to disable adversaries using just hands, feet, and joint locks. Yet, curiously, historians still debate whether one could truly master such arts without a spiritual foundation. Meditation was the linchpin that tethered their formidable skills in battle to inner peace, ensuring every strike was as controlled as it was intentional. Miyamoto Musashi's own life is shrouded in tales of rugged solitude. He often meditated for days, his only companions being the nature surrounding him. It's believed he found inspiration in the simplicity of life around him, a lesson in mindfulness long before it became a modern mantra. The synergy between kenjutsu, jujutsu, and meditation encapsulates the samurai's essence, a finely tuned balance of aggressive technique and serene contemplation. As you lie back, the faint sound of a bamboo water fountain drip, drip, dripping in the distance guides your thoughts. Much like the samurai, you feel the integration of mind, body, and spirit becoming your own guiding light. As this understanding settles within you, the story of the samurai teaches one more lesson Bushido. It wasn't just a set of rules. It was a way of life shaping warriors into poets and strategists, into philosophers. This code demanded the highest ethical standards, an expectation to act with bravery and wisdom, even in the face of the gravest danger. You realize that while the clashing steel of the katana teaches precision and control, the subtleties of jujutsu offer lessons in resilience and humility. And like Musashi, whose legend grew not just from his victories, but from the stories of his spirit, you understand that it is the integration of these skills that truly defines a samurai. As your eyelids grow heavy, you find comfort in the enduring legacy of these ancient warriors, knowing that even if you never wield a sword or execute a perfect jujutsu technique, you hold within you the power to embody their values, to focus, to balance, and to honor the path you've chosen. Your breathing slows gentle and steady as you drift toward a peaceful slumber. The stories of the samurai wrap around you like a warm kimono, reassuring you that while combat may be fierce, the spirit finds calm in the quiet between movements. Your world begins to soften at the edges, the tale of the samurai gently fading like brush strokes of ink dissolving into silence. With each deepening breath, you nestle deeper into a landscape of dreams where even warriors step softly and peace greets you as an old friend.